Hello and welcome to the Central Television. I am Lekan, Onabanjo. The top stories at this hour. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu signs new student loan bill into law. Electricity users in Nigeria are enjoying 20-hour supply to pay more. Speaker of South Africa's National Assembly resigns. Details to come your way shortly. News Central now at this hour begins in West Africa, where Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday signed the Student Loans Re-enactment Bill into law at the State House in Abuja. According to a tweet by the Special Assistant on social media to the President, Olusegun Dada, the bill signing took place at the State House in the presence of the leadership from the National Assembly, ministers, and major education stakeholders. The new legislation repeals the previous Student Loans, that is Access to Higher Education Act of 2023, and reenacts the Student Loans Access to Higher Education Bill from 2004. The executive bill establishes the Nigerian Education Loan Fund as a corporate body tasked with receiving, managing, and investing funds to provide loans to Nigerians pursuing higher education, vocational training, and skills acquisition programs.
This is a very good day, very great day for the country, great day for education, great day for Nigerian students, and who have great need, for support. And we want to thank Mr. President for his compassion and his passion for the downtrodden, actually, who are the beneficiaries of this scheme. Now the days when students will be struggling to sponsor themselves in their various educational endeavors is over, both at the tertiary and those who are seeking skills, who are seeking to be skilled, to be empowered, to move on with their lives. So it's a very great day for the country.
This is commendable. As for Nigerian students that I represent, we are happy. We'll see Mr. President's commitment to the development of education. And today, the entire education system is happy. The Nigerian students particularly are happy. Our parents are happy that, yes, in Nigeria, even the children of the poor can have access to quality education. We see Mr. President's commitment and the signing of the bill today. It shows that Mr. President is a father of modern education in Nigeria, and the initiator of this bill is a hero of education. So we are happy. We've never seen this before.
Still on education, Nigeria ranks 124th out of 137 countries in terms of quality of primary education, according to World Economic Forum. This situation, experts believe, has worsened due to the low access rates by students and parents as a result of the rising cost of education, both at primary and secondary levels. Bridging this gap is the reason quality education remains top of the list for Sustainable Development Goals, to ensure education is affordable and accessible for all, regardless of their socio-economic background. News Central's Omolola Ololade has more in this report.
Nigeria's literacy rate increased by about 7% to a total of 61%, leaving 31% of the population non-literate. 68% of the youth in Nigeria in 2020 had received secondary education, and 15% of them had completed primary education, while 17% pursued higher studies after secondary education, according to Statista. Quality education, which happens to be the fourth item on the UN Sustainable Development Goal, remains a powerful tool for transforming lives of individuals and communities while contributing to the development of their society. Unfortunately, the detrimental impact of declining education standards in Nigeria, especially on the Nigerian youth, is felt in every sphere of the economy. A situation that has left many citizens to seek quality education and greener pastures abroad.
Also, after their education, they also seek for better work opportunities where the educational system is well developed. The economic system is more stable. The condition is perceived to have a higher quality of education, better prospect for career advancement. Invariably, the implication of this is brain drain. A lot of skilled Nigerian workers are being exported to other countries, which is a loss to the country.
While some have the opportunity to travel abroad to seek quality education, others do not even have access to basic education back home.
Kuma babban abin da yake kawo yanzu a yanzu da wannan karin da muke ciki talauci shewa mutane kanta. Iyaye daukan ɗawainiyar su yau abin da za a ci ake kokowa. Haki ne shi kansa ilimin to amma abin da za a ci shi ma kuma haki ne. To idan uba ba shi da nutsuwa ba shi da abin da zai iya yi ya gabatar da 'ya'yansa ya ba su abin da za su ci, to wannan dole ne a samu naƙasu a cikin karatunsu.
That was the fate of 10.5 million Nigerian children of school age in 2018. That number increased to about 14 million in 2020, and in 2022, it rose to 20 million. A 2018 Universal Basic Education Commission data indicate that in northern Nigeria, Bauchi State has the most out-of-school children with 354,373. The statistics also show that in Southwest, Osun State takes the lead with 165,114 out-of-school children, while Imo State 275,890 out-of-school children ranks it highest in the Southeast. And in the South-South, Akwa Ibom State has the most out-of-school children with 581,800. Nigeria's basic educational system has been troubled for years, and the educationists believe funding plays a crucial role in reviving the sector, especially in keeping Nigerian children in school.
The states should really put more money into education. But it's not just putting money into education, into the right things. So it's the efficiency and effectiveness of the funds. So it's important that we fund it appropriately. We put enough money into education to ensure that every child has a chance.
However, the rising cost of tertiary education in Nigeria is becoming increasingly worrisome for Nigerian students. Although the Nigerian government believes the provision of the newly approved student loan will help make education more accessible, the students think otherwise.
A loan is something you have to repay later. So what's of people that don't have the money and I don't know the time span that it's agreed upon? I don't know. So what would be your fate?
I wouldn't take the loan because of paying back. So I'd rather just find the money and pay my school fees by myself.
Experts say the intrinsic cost of tertiary education is expensive. Therefore, higher education cannot afford to be completely free.
Tertiary education in particular is extremely expensive. It's very expensive. But the thing is, Nigeria has signed on, signed all kinds of protocols and, charters and whatever. I believe that we have signed on to keep our children educated up to the age of 16, I believe, which is, let's just say, roughly up to secondary school.
The issue of payment for education, we've always paid in Nigeria. Oil money changed that, and we said everything was free. Now we have to go back to paying. One thing that's clear, forget how we got here. Government cannot do it again.
One of the key factors for economic growth and peace is education. This is in line with the agenda of UN Sustainable Development Goal Initiative. To achieve a society where access to quality education is not only free but affordable, government and all relevant stakeholders must be intentional in establishing sustainable enablers that may include public and private partnership. In Lagos, for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
To politics now, the seven-man panel set up to investigate allegations of misconduct against Philip Shaibu, Deputy Governor of Edo State, has commenced sitting in Benin. The panel was set up by Daniel Okungbowa, Chief Judge of Edo State. It is headed by S.A. Omonua, a retired justice. The commencement of the panel sitting follows the resolution by the State House of Assembly to initiate impeachment processes against Shaibu. Shaibu has since fallen out with Godwin Obaseki, governor of the state. At the panel's inaugural sitting on Wednesday, the House of Assembly was presented by Joe Ohiafa, Deputy Clerk, Legal. Shaibu was represented by Oladoyin Awuyale, a professor and senior advocate of Nigeria. In July, Shaibu approached a federal high court in Abuja with a suit to prevent an alleged impeachment plot against him. Away to security matters now. The Zamfara state government has ordered immediate restriction of movement along the state's borders with Katsina and Sokoto from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. local time due to the resurgence of terrorist attacks on travelers. The Commissioner for Information and Culture, Manir Haidara, disclosed this in a statement, noting that the directive was part of the decision of the State Security Council meeting. He said this was to tackle the incessant kidnapping of travelers along the Sokoto-Gusau-Funtua highway. According to the commissioner, all motorists and travelers are directed to abide by the government's order, as security agencies are directed to monitor the two borders and ensure full compliance. Now let's talk aviation, where Air Peace, a prominent indigenous aviation company in Nigeria, has sounded the alarm after discovering that fraudsters have cloned its official website, duping unsuspecting customers. This comes just days after the airline made history with its inaugural direct flight from Nigeria to the United Kingdom. Air Peace took to its official X handle, formerly known as Twitter, to warn its customers about the fraudulent activities on Tuesday. The airline clarified that this fake website, which mimics their identity, has been used by cybercriminals to scam unsuspecting passengers. In light of this warning, passengers are urged to exercise caution and only use the official Air Peace website for booking flights and other transactions. Away from that, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has approved an increase in electricity tariff for customers under the Band A classification. The Vice Chairman, NERC, Ms. Liu Oseni, said the increase will see the customers paying 225 naira per kilowatt hour from the current 66 naira. Customers under Band A are those who enjoy 20 hours of electricity supply daily. Speaking at a press conference in Abuja on Wednesday, Oseni said customers in Band A represent 15% of the 12 million electricity consumers in the country. He added that the Commission had also downgraded some customers on Band A to Band B due to the non-fulfillment of the required hours of electricity provided by the electricity distribution company. Staying with a business-related story, we tell you that Dangote Petroleum Refinery has commenced nationwide sales of diesel, promising to soon release aviation fuel. The move, confirmed by dealers and officials, is expected to lower diesel prices, responding to recent hikes. The refinery, inaugurated in 2023, faced regulatory hurdles, delaying product releases. A statement from Aliko Dangote expressed gratitude to President Bola Tinubu and regulatory bodies for their support. The refinery's earlier announcements about diesel and aviation fuel production have now materialized, marking a significant milestone in Nigeria's petroleum industry. Earlier, Abubakar Mar, a financial analyst, spoke to us on this development.
With the coming of Dangote Refinery to be able to sustain, because the company said they are going to supply 1 million liters, that's the minimum to each marketers. So the ability of them to be able to supply that will flood the market with a huge supply. and we are expecting something to be around 1,100 to 1,200, which shows that the price of diesel is actually going down. And I cannot overemphasize the importance of low price of diesel. If diesel is low, definitely, the manufacturers, the bakers, they are going to have, to reduce their own operational costs, which in turn is going to reflect in the final cost of product that is going to be consumed by the end users. So I believe that this is going to be a game changer, and it's also going to impact on the economy as a whole, because definitely you are going to have a lot of activities going on, and you are going to have a security of supply, which will make sure that our manufacturing companies are actually going to give us a required output at a reasonable price amid this high inflationary.
Nigeria's federal government is in talks with the International Criminal Police Organization to extradite a top executive of cryptocurrency firm Binance, who escaped from detention on March 22. Nadeem Anjarwalla, the fugitive in question, along with another executive, Tigran Gambarian, were detained in Abuja over allegations of money laundering. Despite stringent security measures, Anjarwalla managed to flee the country using a Kenyan passport. However, the federal government insists that Anjarwalla's absence will not hinder the legal proceedings against Binance and Gambarian, who are set to be arraigned in court on Thursday. Meanwhile, investigations into Anjarwalla's escape are ongoing as security personnel involved are being questioned by a special investigative team comprised of various agencies. You're watching News Central now. A break will do here. We'll be back with more. Don't go away. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, lack of awareness has been identified as one of the major problems plaguing the development of privacy and data development in Nigeria. And the only way to address this and better secure Nigeria's data space is by arming data users with relevant information. Our correspondent, Bernard Akede, was at a gathering where data privacy and protection was discussed and filed in this report.
As Nigeria joins the rest of the world in moving further into digitalization, the need to protect the data and general information of Nigerians cannot be overemphasized. Citizens stand the risk of having their personal information harvested and exploited. At this gathering of data and information experts, data protection was heavily highlighted.
We are now in the digital age. We have things like generative AI that are moving at a very, very quick pace. And if we don't keep up by having these conversations, eventually we're going to be left behind. So we must know what are the critical issues at stake, what measures do we need to protect our data, and why is it important? And more importantly, how can we use data in moving our nation forward in a digital economy?
Nigerians have been accused of not properly scrutinizing platforms which request for their personal data. The experts say this is one of the many ways by which citizens unknowingly place their information in the wrong hands.
A lot of people are not aware of the law. They're not aware of their rights. So they don't even know what to do or where to go. We should interrogate. How are you using my information? What do you want to use it for? Why do you need it? How long do you want it for? But we don't ask those questions. In fact, some of us don't even read the terms and conditions.
There are provisions in the law where the affected citizens can seek redress should they feel their data may have been compromised by individuals or agencies they trusted with their data. The only issue is most citizens are not adequately educated on data protection.
If there is a violation, the Data Protection Act actually gives step-by-step recourse of what to do, all right? And this includes lawsuits, it includes heavy fines on the organizations that have made such infractions.
In recent times, the Nigerian government has been collaborating with other governments in terms of data gathering and monitoring so as to further curb data and cyber crimes, a venture that the government says is yielding fruits.
Nigeria has a policy and strategy on cybersecurity, which was done by the Office of the National Security Advisor. And one of the very key pillars there is international cooperation, and then also to strengthen the legal and regulatory framework within the country. And Nigeria has taken that really very seriously. And it was followed shortly after with the accession to the Budapest Convention, which at the moment is the only existing close to global treaty.
The hope is that more conversations like this will keep Nigerians more informed about data crimes and help make Nigeria's data space safer in the near future. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akide.
The prevalent cases of fire outbreaks in displaced persons camps in Nigeria's northeastern state of Borno is said to be coming to an end. Shocking details have emerged as the Borno State Ministry of Justice investigates suspected individuals allegedly hired by certain NGOs to deliberately set these IDP camps on fire. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the reports.
It is distressing to witness the growing number of fire incidents in Maiduguri's displaced persons camps in recent years. Affected IDP camps already face numerous challenges, and these fire outbreaks only added to the immense suffering of the displaced individuals. While sometimes life is lost, the precarious situation usually leaves many with the brunt of such incidences. The Borno State Ministry of Justice has launched an urgent investigation to uncover the truth behind these cases. Preliminary evidence suggests the involvement of individuals who may have been hired by certain non-governmental organizations.
The Ministry of Justice is willing to do what it is required to do. Once the investigation is done and the people found guilty of this act is brought to us, we will do all that is required to see that they have been brought to book. Justice will definitely serve. And I would like to also let the general public know that this government's conduct is rooted in the principles of rule of law, fairness, and justice. And in the course of this investigation, both the accused and the victims will be dealt in accordance with the rule of law. Definitely fairness and justice will prevail in the process.
The Borno State Ministry of Justice is said to hold those responsible for the criminal act of setting fire on the camps accountable for their actions, as it is considered inhumane.
I would like to plead with the general public again that we need to, this is a month of Ramadan, we need to intensify our prayers. While the state government is doing its best in tackling this, as a citizen, we also have the responsibility to help the state government in tackling this issue.
An amateur video making the rounds on social media by a young person revealed how they are paid 10,000 naira by an NGO serving in Borno State to set fire on selected displaced persons camps.
While joint efforts and investigation has since commenced, the hope now is for justice to prevail and the scourge of fire outbreak incidences become a thing of the past. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
It is believed that a major evidence of climate change is the unusual global weather pattern. Residents of Jos, capital of Plateau State, north-central Nigeria, are coming to terms with that rise in temperature and its attendant effects. News Central's Chizobranyaway reports.
Over the years, Plateau State had been known for its very cold weather conditions. This made it possible for certain plants that naturally thrive in cold environments to grow well with good yields on the plateau. The last few years may have begun a departure from that trend, leading to unusual temperature in the city. Available records focusing on March and April, which are the hottest months of the year, show that temperature in the city has been on a subtle rise, as this year is going to be the warmest in Jos so far. Conversations around the changing weather pattern have been an ongoing global concern for years. Most of the identified causes are tied to human actions and inactions. Christian Ocha is a professor in the Climate and Meteorology Department, University of Jos.
The natural energy that we get from the sun is there generally, but what is happening is more of anthropogenic factor, in that it is human factor. One, the population of Jos has increased. Activities have also increased. Activities in terms of commercial, transportation, all these things are the things that will give rise to excessive heat.
No one can be the better judge of the seemingly strange temperature in Jos than the residents.
It used to be very cold, but it's very, very hot. Like yesterday, I was sweating. My clothes have to be soaked.
The weather is too harsh, especially now we are in Ramadan.
The weather is too hot, and honestly speaking, we are not finding it easy.
Like every extreme condition, the heat has direct effect on human health, which should not be ignored.
Heat generally has an effect on the body. The immediate one is the extreme loss of body fluids. And of course, that leads to thirst. Thirst, of course, is your body telling you you need more water. And of course, if you leave that unattended to, it leads to dehydration and even extreme forms of dehydration. Some people actually could faint or even have stroke from extreme exposure to heat.
Now, from the sights and sounds of this report, it is expected that more people will join the environmental advocates in the fight for the preservation of the world's heritage for the benefit of humans and animals alike. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyomi.
Coming up on the news. Uganda court rejects bid to overturn anti-gay law. We will bring you details after this short timeout. Do stay with us. We stay in West Africa, where anti-establishment figurehead Ousmane Sonko speaks following his appointment as Prime Minister by his mentee and Senegal's newly elected President Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Leader of the PASTEF party, Sonko says he is aware of the importance of the trust the President has placed in him and will spare no efforts to achieve the goals promised the Senegalese people. Sonko is expected to form and present a new government to President Faye.
La confiance et l'importance de la confiance qu'il a placée en notre personne, en nous nommant aux responsabilités de Premier ministre du gouvernement du Sénégal, c'est-à-dire l'autorité publique qui est en charge la coordination et la conduite de la politique de la nation conformément à la Constitution du Sénégal. C'est une lourde responsabilité puisqu'il s'agira de coordonner justement cette action et de conduire les équipes qui devront travailler d'arrache-pied à la réalisation des objectifs qu'on s'est assignés dans le cadre effectivement de cette politique de la nation qui désormais s'articule autour de notre programme que nous avons élaboré en commun, que nous avons présenté en commun aux Sénégalais et que nous avons défendu ensemble, le programme qui s'intitule Pour un Sénégal.
In the east of the continent, Uganda's constitutional court on Wednesday rejected a bid to scrap a controversial anti-gay law that is considered one of the toughest in the world. The legislation was adopted in May last year, triggering outrage among the LGBTQ community, rights campaigners, the United Nations and Western powers. It imposes penalties of up to life in prison for consensual same-sex relations and contains provisions that make aggravated homosexuality an offense punishable by death. The five-judge bench, however, ruled that sections of the law violated the rights to health and infringed on the rights to adequate standards of living as enshrined in the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
The simple question before the court was whether the equal protection of law under our constitution extends to every single Ugandan, regardless of whether we like them or we don't like them. And I think in that regard, the court, I think, let us down and failed to protect a section of our community. Given the conservative leaning of the court.
We now head to South Africa, where the Speaker of South Africa's National Assembly resigned on Wednesday, a day after a judge cleared the way for her to be arrested on charges that she took bribes when she served as defense minister. The resignation of the Speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, comes amid a tense, weeks-long standoff with law enforcement officials over a corruption case that has dealt a blow to the governing African National Congress 2 months before a critical national election. On Tuesday, a judge threw out Mapisa-Nqakula's court application, seeking to prevent her arrest. As of Wednesday afternoon, she had not turned herself into the authorities. To discuss this further, I'm joined by the founder and president of American Amalgamated Restorative Movement, Bishop Mashashane. Thank you so much, Bishop, for joining us on the news.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and thanks for having us.
So how do you view the implications of this case on the integrity of high-profile individuals implicated in corruption scandals in South Africa?
Indeed, we view it as a serious embarrassment and a complex matter that also degrade the standard of one of our important sphere of government, because being the speaker, the national speaker of National Assembly, then the person is regarded equally as the deputy president or the head of that sphere of government. As you know that our sphere of government, it's in three, is the executive, then is the National Assembly, and we then have the judiciary. So she being the head and having such allegations, very serious allegations, we're talking about 12 or 14 counts of corruption, money laundering, bribery, and we feel that this is a bit too late. She was supposed to step down immediately some time back. As for now, it is too late. We cannot applaud it. It is so embarrassing. It is compromising the standard and the decorum of our National Assembly.
So then, do you believe that the legal system in South Africa can effectively handle cases of corruption involving influential figures like the suspended Speaker of Parliament?
Not at the moment. Our only prayers and hope is if we, from the 29th of May, which is our national elections, if we can drop the majority of the ANC, because they are using their majority or the numbers in parliament to protect each other from corruption to another. So all that we are working hard to do now is to make sure that they come out of power. And once they're out of power, that is where we will have a confident and rebuild the independence of the National Prosecuting Authority. As it stands now, all these arms of the sphere are captured under ANC, and they are unable to function well. That is why we cannot see any justice, or rather have all these political connected people charged. That is why she even ran to court to try a lucky so that she cannot be charged, because the ANC policy says that you can only step down when you are charged. And if they capture all these security clusters and Chapter 9 institutions not to do their work, obviously they cannot be charged and they cannot step aside. So the only way that we're going to see justice in South Africa is by replacing the government by another political party or coalition, as it seemed to be.
All right, Bishop Mashashane, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for having us.
Well, still in South Africa, according to Statistics SA, more than 16,000 kidnappings are recorded annually in the country. The escalating number of kidnappings in South Africa has reached unprecedented levels, with recent incidents shedding light on the dire reality faced by citizens. South Africa's major cities dominated the list for the high crime rate in Africa at the start of 2024. Shockingly, 85% of these victims are women and children. According to Stats SA, In 2022 to 2023 financial year, the total number of kidnappings in South Africa reached 15,343 cases. Gauteng had the highest number of kidnappings with 7,818 reports. KwaZulu-Natal followed with 3,081 cases of kidnapping in the same period. And now, to discuss this, we are joined by William L., Senior Training Coordinator, Institute for Security Studies. Thank you so much, William, for joining us.
Good evening to you.
So let's start by talking about this data. How reliable is it, looking at the statistics?
Well, every time you look at data, of course, there is some margin of error that you have to bring into account because one of the reasons for that is, for instance, the underreporting of crimes because of fear, because of intimidation, etc., etc. So that is why it is very important when you look at data, you have to try to verify it with different sources. So here in South Africa, we will look at the police crime statistics. We also look at the Department of Statistics for their numbers. And then at the Institute for Security Studies, we also have a crime hub that keep statistics on crime, and then trying to enhance and to work with the police in order to bring those statistics closer to what the reality is.
So can you then provide an overview of the current state of crime in South Africa, particularly in relation to kidnapping?
In terms of kidnappings, the numbers, the statistics that has been given, it is very close to that of what the police has given in the previous financial book year. But what we also see is that according to our statistics over the past decade, we see that kidnappings and kidnap for ransom, it rose by a staggering 260% in South Africa alone, placing us in the 7th spot in the world when it comes to kidnappings.
All right, so what factors do you believe contribute to South Africa topping the list of crime in Africa?
Okay, there are various indicators that we're looking at. For instance, if you look at the Transnational Organized Crime Index for Africa, for instance, where we look at 17 different indicators, of which kidnapping for ransom and kidnapping is one of them. We are currently, South Africa is number 3 in Africa, but it's also number 7 in the world when it comes to criminality in terms of transnational organized crime and syndicates that are operating in that country. And that is not a very good spot for South Africa to be out of 193 countries. We see that in the SADC region, South Africa is number 1. So that is really problematic. If you look at the crime statistics of the last quarter in South Africa, they released the crime statistic quarterly, and we can see a tremendous spike, especially in your contact and your violence crimes, your crimes against women and children. So what you are showing at the moment is one of the incidences in the Western Cape where that little girl was kidnapped. We also have a case that is currently ongoing where a mother, for instance, kidnapped or took their 2 children and they illegally crossed the border to Zimbabwe, where they found refuge in one of the cities with a religious institution, where the father is in Cape Town, and he also registered a case of kidnapping against the mother. So we can see, as you mentioned, according to our statistics, 85% of all kidnappings other women or children are involved, and that is really staggering.
So what drastic steps must be taken to deal with the issue of kidnapping in the country?
In the first place, the police has established your kidnapping task teams. You must then look at where most of your kidnappings are taking place. You mentioned that in the Gauteng province, obviously, the majority of that is taking place. And then what they do is these task teams are then multi-agency task teams that are looking at that. They're looking at intelligence. They're looking at preemptive as well as reactive measures in order to take that account. But if you look at why and where we see the kidnappings and what is happening, we see that the majority of these people are kidnapped for ransom for demands. So they are ransom that is demanded. We look at human trafficking. That is quite high, especially in our TOC index. Also, we see that human trafficking is the highest of those indicators in South Africa. So there's a really big worry for us, because children as young as just being teenagers are being kidnapped by these rings in order to exploit them. We see the drug syndicates, business debt feuds, but also something that came to our attention of late is especially amongst your universities, where students are being targeted as being kidnapped.
All right, William Els, thank you so much for your time. Talking business now, Afreximbank warns of higher inflation and rising interest rates in Africa in 2024 due to Red Sea attack. Egypt's Suez Canal traffic declined by 50% in the first 2 months of 2024, while trade through the Panama Canal fell by 32%, impacting supply chains and distorting macroeconomic indicators. Joaquin Mark Ebong, a policy analyst, discussed the macroeconomic implications of these disruptions on Africa during the Business Edge show.
Shipments, and those shipping costs going up, because when you have to go around the African continent, it is going to add at least 10 days to the trip, and it is also going to add, several $1,000s or several tens of thousands of dollars regarding just the cost of those shipments. So you have all of those costs that are going to be passed down to African consumers, and because of those costs being passed down, or those shipments being disrupted completely, you then have those scarcities and you have those higher costs that will then definitely increase inflation on the continent. Now, again, we are only just trying to recover from the disruptions due to the Russia-Ukraine war. Your viewers will recall that there was a Black Sea grain deal, that was supposed to benefit African countries, allowing grain to exit Ukraine, and come to come to Africa. Now, but the problem here is that we are now.
In sports, former Spanish Football Federation President Luis Rubiales has been arrested upon arrival in Madrid from the Dominican Republic in connection with a corruption probe. He was quickly released after being detained, and Rubiales is accused of accepting illegal commissions related to negotiating a deal to host the Spanish Super Cup in Saudi Arabia. Prosecutors are seeking a 2.5-year prison sentence, but Rubiales denies any wrongdoing. Following his release, he may appear in court on Thursday. Last month, police searched Rubiales' home and the Federation headquarters, resulting in several arrests. Additionally, Rubiales faces a separate trial for alleged sexual assault after kissing player Henny Hermoso, which she and her teammates deemed unwanted. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, we take a look at some of our top stories. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu signs new Student Loan Bill into law. Electricity users in Nigeria enjoying 20-hour supply to pay more. Speaker of South Africa's National Assembly resigns. Don't forget to send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. And you can follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onabanjo.